Hey, what's up guys? It's Juan Pablo here from 100% Finance at 100%finance.com. I am a full-time real estate investor and entrepreneur, and I don't work in a 9 to 5. Alright? So this is a shout out to all my subscribers and to you people who happen to search me for the first time on YouTube. So I'm just doing a video about multifamily basics. I won't go in that much depth or in detail, but I'll just share a little bit basis with you, okay? So let's just dive into it. A lot of people I have, because I have a lot of subscribers, they ask about, can you talk about the cap rate, right? What is a cap rate? A cap rate is the capitalization rate. It's pretty much a gauge to measure the profitability of an asset. In this case, a multifamily unit, like an apartment building. Okay? And a cap rate is really determined by this equation. Okay? The cap rate is equal to the NOI over the value. The NOI is the net operating income, which is basically your gross rents minus all your expenses. Okay, your taxes, your insurance, your maintenance, your vacancy allowance, lawn care, property management, utilities if you pay for utilities, any other operating expense that can occur on this apartment building. Okay, no debt service. Alright, so we're not talking about mortgages or any other money that you borrow from lenders or from partners or from business credit or none of that. Just income minus the operating expenses. The expenses that incur to operate this asset. That's the NOI. So it's the NOI, whatever that difference is, okay? So I'll just say NOI is equal to gross rents. And it could be other income too, because you might have vending machines on the property, or laundry mats, or coin laundry like I have on some of my apartment buildings, or you might have a tower on top of your building which you rent out to some cell phone company or whatever. But it's just the gross income, okay? But I'm just going to put gross rent for now, minus your operating expenses equals your NOI, okay? Which is important. So it doesn't factor in debt service because, you know, the market is always changing when it comes to financing, and you might get a 10% interest rate, might get a 5% interest rate, might have 20% down, might have 30% down, might have 10% down. So everybody's financing will be different. So most of the time, for multifamily purposes, people think about the NOI for gauging the profitability of the asset. And then you divide that by the value, pretty much how much they're selling it for, how much it's worth. And that will give you the cap rate. Okay, so the reverse is true too. You know, if you took algebra, you do simple mathematics, you can change these out to get the value. So also the value is also equal to the NOI over the cap rate. So what I like to do when I'm buying multifamily buildings, because I like to get my down payment money back, right, through a cash out refinance, is this. So the NOI, which I would get, you know, if I just say I'm working with a realtor and they tell me, pretty much give me all the information I need to calculate the NOI. Just show me the rent roll. They also show me just the gross rents received and all the expenses, you know, profit and loss statement for each month for the past 2 years, things of that nature, so I can get the NOI. I get the NOI and they tell me the cap rate for that area based upon, because that's how they kind of measure, because multifamily is a little different than single family homes. You know, it's based upon the performance of the asset and not necessarily the location of the asset. With residential, and I'm talking about financing here, they focus more so on the location. Oh, you're in this area, 11212, whatever. Oh, based upon this, the house would be worth this much. But with real estate investing, it's really about the performance of the asset, how much NOI is generating. Okay. So let's say that the realtor knows the cap rate. Based upon this area, the cap rate is 10%, which is fairly good. Okay? So if you know that, you can calculate the value of that asset. And that's what the realtor would probably tell the seller of how much they can get for that asset. Right? So what you want to be, or what you want to do to be a savvy real estate entrepreneur like your main man here, Juan Pablo, is you want to multiply this times 0.8. and get that under contract at that price. Okay? So let's say you did the math, the NOI divided by the cap rate gives you a value of $1 million. If I know how to write $1 million, if I get my commas right, I need to know, because one of these days I'm gonna be writing $1 million checks, speaking that to existence, right? All right, so $1 million, you want to get under contract at 80% of that. So you want to get under contract for $800,000. That would be your purchase price. So that way, if you're buying it for $800,000, but it's appraised at $1 million, it'll be worth, the value is $1 million, you got 20% built-in equity that you're going to refinance in a year, 2 years, or 3 years time. Hopefully it's a year's time if you bought it with 20% built-in equity. Okay, so that's what you want to do. All right, so that way the 20,000, 200,000 you came for the down payment, that's the difference between $1 million and 800,000. Hopefully you got that the 100% finance way. You know, you're borrowing 100% of the cash to buy this income producing asset, an apartment building. You either got it through business credit or through partners or IRAs or savings, whatever you got it without using your own cash. All right, so that way you can cash out the equity, which was again 20%, which is 200,000 in this scenario. And you take that same 200,000 and you pay all those people who lent you to borrow, who lent you the money, so that you can get into this asset. So you're now on this asset 100% finance. And guess what your rate of return is? Infinite! And make sure you're still cash flowing. This doesn't make sense doing all this math if it's not cash flowing, but that's another story, all right? We're just talking about some basics right here. All right, so that's what you want to do with the cap rate. Now, what I like to do, I have A, B, C, and D. These are pretty much how they categorize certain properties and neighborhoods. A property is fairly built, built new within 10 years. It's in great condition, pretty much. It's in a great area. You know, you might see a Starbucks down the street, or you might see a Whole Foods around the corner. That's like an A-type area, okay? So that's like the top of the food chain. The bottom of the food chain is the D. That's like the hood, the ghetto, the place that, you know, the building is kind of old and the property is probably not so good to live in. In the A type, I would say you'll see Starbucks around the corner or on the same street. In the D area, you'll see pawn shops and liquor stores. Okay, so I'm not trying to judge anyone. I'm just telling you how they classify certain neighborhoods. Why is that important? Because they attach certain type of cap rates to each neighborhood, which I'll explain for you guys for the free ski. All right, so I would say this will be like a 12 cap rate, 12 plus, 10 plus, 8 plus, and 6 plus. All right, so this is pretty much the cap rates associated with each class of property or neighborhood. A-type properties, you're gonna, I mean, this was making a good deal, okay? It's a 6 cap rate or higher. A B property or neighborhood is 8 cap rate or higher. C is 10 cap rate or higher, and D is 12 or higher, okay? Of course, they can be lower, you know, so this is just a range. So this B might be 8 to 9, 10 to 11, 12 and up, 6 to 7, okay? However, there are some areas where you can get an A-type property and it might be less than 6%, it might be 3%, 4%, like areas like, just say you're buying an apartment building in New York City somewhere, right? So it just lets you know that your profitability will be less. You have to buy more cash to get like a lesser profit. But what's the risk? Not that much, because you're buying a newer property in a great area. So it's not a management headache for you, okay? And it's pretty much consistent, somewhat guaranteed. I don't like to float that guarantee word around, but it's pretty much guaranteed that you'll collect your rents, all right? And the tenants will take care of your property. What I like to do, since I'm sharing you guys my secrets on how I like to buy these type of properties, I always aim to buy a C property, put prop, in a B neighborhood. I don't know how to spell. I don't know why. Neighborhood. All right, I'm just gonna put nay. I like to buy a C property in a B neighborhood. So it's a property that's kind of beat up, maybe 20, 30 years old, and so what you can do is that you can put some work into it, light work, cosmetic stuff, kick out the slow payers and the no payers, people who are always late with their rents and people who don't pay their rent, kick them out, do some light upgrades. You might want to upgrade the kitchen a little bit, or the bathrooms a little bit, the flooring a little bit, add some paint a little bit. Improve the exterior of the building and the shrubbery and the landscaping a little bit. All cosmetic stuff, okay? Nothing here I would suggest do anything that's like structurally unsound, okay? You want to buy a C area with a C property with a sound structure, strong foundation, but you need to do some cosmetic upgrades, okay? In a nicer area like a B minus area. Oh yeah, by the way, these have pluses and minuses, by the way. So it's not just A, B, C, D, there's A plus, A minus, B minus. But you want to buy like a C minus, C plus, and like a B minus area. So you can capitalize on that locality aspect of real estate investing. And you can increase your rents a little bit, so that you can do a cash out refinance, pull the money out, and you can just eat that money without paying any taxes, because it's a cash out refinance. It's a loan that your tenants will pay off, and you still get to collect the cash flow. And you get your down payment money back, so you can pay off that business credit or private money lender or whatever it is that you borrowed the money from, or got the money from. So that's what I like to do. I don't like to buy in D areas. Which leads me to my next point. I normally buy properties that are C properties, right? So the income for these tenants is pretty low. They're pretty much like blue collar workers. I like to invest in someone like blue collar areas, right? Maybe a very low B or high C, but it's a C minus C area. It's low income. So I get Section 8 tenants, which is fine. Why? Because I get that money guaranteed on the first every month by the government. And not once has the government ever been late, or didn't pay me, or I had to take the government to court. It's guaranteed. And that's what you want, especially if you're buying properties 100% finance, which I teach the 100% finance way. You need to make sure that you're getting pretty much close to 100% of your rents coming in, all right? So low income is fine, all right? It doesn't have to be a high income area or neighborhood. But the C is for crime. The crime has to be low, okay? But so that's why you gotta be careful in your analysis. You don't want to buy a C-class property in which the incomes are low, which you pretty much already know. Most of the people will be on some type of public assistance, like Section 8, for example, or SSI, or disability, or whatever. But you don't want to buy that, and it's going to be a high crime area. That's a headache. Ask me how I know that. Ask me how I know that. Because I bought a property out of state in a high crime area. I still own it now. It's good now. But in the beginning, it was a headache. A headache. You know how hard it is to rent a place like that? And then when you do rent it, you know what kind of tenant you will attract? What kind of tenant do you know will be willing to live in a shoot 'em up, bang bang area? Right? So, sad to say, or you can agree with me if you want to, or disagree if you want to, but the type of property and the type of neighborhood attracts a certain type of tenant. Alright? The worse off the neighborhood is, that seems to be the worst off the tenant. Now, there are exceptions, don't get me wrong. Okay? So that's why I like to invest in those C areas where it is Section 8 tenants, but it's in a low crime area. But I've experienced that. And it's a headache, especially if you're managing yourself like me, and the tenant moves in, break in after break in, they move out in the middle of the night because they don't feel safe there. And then you have to continuously do these repairs or file these insurance claims for vandalism because someone kicked in the door, broke in through the window, or stole your copper pipes, and you got to replace that again. And it's a headache! It's not fun. So you want to make sure you be very selective of the neighborhood, okay? That's why I say in a somewhat of a B minus area or C plus area. Alright? Low crime. And I like to do yield versus value plays. Yield play, like I mentioned earlier, is something in which it's already generating income. So I like to buy multifamily properties like apartment buildings in which is 100% occupied. I love that 100% because I like to get all of it. Not one thing missing, nothing broken, 100%. 100% finance, baby. And that's what I like to do. So I like to do yield plays. I put in my contracts as a contingency that the apartment building, now I always used to buy, you know, small apartment buildings, you know, like 9 units, 6 units, whatever. they have to be 100% occupied at closing. So that way at closing, and I normally like to close in the beginning of the month, like the first, the second, and third of the month, because I get rent prorations for that whole month. So for example, if I close on March 2nd, I get the rents from the 2nd into the 31st of March. It's prorated, so it's less money you have to bring to the table as a down payment. And I also get the security deposits prorated, right? So that's a good thing. So if I had a 10 unit, I would get those 10 units rents, you know, based upon the leases that the seller already gave me, and the security deposits, which also is reflected on the leases and the rent roll. Okay, so that's why I like yield plays. And banks like yield plays. Lenders, commercial lenders, they like to lend money on properties that are, I would say, 85% occupied or better. They don't like to do value plays, which is, you can make money that way too, don't get me wrong. It's kind of like you're flipping a multifamily property. They don't like to lend money on value plays. Well, only certain banks will like to do that. It's called repositioning. Some don't like it. That's the term, repositioning. They might not lend money on repositioning, meaning you're buying a property that's 60% occupied. It's a 10 unit or 100 unit, let's say 100 unit, and only 40 of the unit, or only 60 of the units are occupied with tenants. The other 40 are vacant because the property is just distressed, beat up, dilapidated, tore up from the floor up. It's more of a risk in their part. But in your part, it is a great reward. You can get a great return because you know, hey, this beat up property is actually in the B- area. Let me kick these tenants out who's not paying or slow paying, and let me also fix up these properties that are vacant, get the property repositioned, change the outlook, maybe change the name of the apartment complex or apartment building, increase the rents, stabilize it, and then refinance and pull my cash back out. But me, I tend to stick with yield plays and just do minor cosmetic changes to the property. So that way I can do a refinance quickly and I'm making money on day one at closing. Okay? So these are just the basics that I want to share with you guys. We also discussed this in our group coaching call that we have on 100% Finance. And I think it's very valuable. So we're actually teaching multifamily. Our next meeting is this Saturday, March, I don't know what Saturday is. Let me look at my calendar. I apologize about that, guys. I apologize. The 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're interested, sign up for a group coaching so I can tell you about a multifamily property and the live deal that I'm working on now. All right, it's a 53-unit apartment building, a complex. So sign up for the coaching so you can learn more. All right, so I'm Juan Pablo. I'm out. Check out the website. Subscribe. Peace out, people.